to give a shout out to Michael Vase, coming all the way from, where is it, Michael? San Francisco?
So calling you from the West Coast, from the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area.
Nice. And we've known each other for precisely 1 month or two, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, seems like a long time.
Yeah. We've Michael is a co-founder, right, Michael, of a company called Blitz Inc.
Correct.
And Blitz has a technology platform solution that enables a variety of businesses to do local video chat communications.
Yeah, remote video, effectively, to do some jobs remotely.
Okay. Later this week, Michael, if you're up to it, I'll invite you back. Maybe we'll talk more about technology.
Sure.
But tonight, as we go on, if you've got a question, you'll see we have a chat box there. You can raise your hand. We'll maybe bring you up online. You could ask it. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Is the chat box on Zoom? Is that it? Yeah, it's the little help.
Yeah, this. If you look down at, it should be at the bottom of your screen. You should see it.
Oh yeah, I see raise hand. Okay, got it in
Okay.
chat. Yeah, got it. Thank you.
I know we've been doing our calls, Michael, on Zoom, right?
Right. Is this video and audio or audio only?
This is video and audio. We have I think an upgraded subscription. I'll have to ask Engel, he knows the level of subscription. I know this version has more bells and whistles than the free one.
Very fancy.
I'm going to wait some from Michael. That. You still there, Michael? Okay.
Yeah, he's there. He just unmuted.
Okay. He's been busy, as you might imagine. That kind of pretty hot demand.
It's been crazy busy. You know, we got messages from cities this afternoon. I'm like, I didn't expect a city employee to send us messages on a Sunday afternoon.
What are they looking for?
You know, they had some questions and they wanted to figure out some functionality and, you know.
What, do they want to use it for inspections or something?
That is absolutely correct. You're right on. Yeah, so that's what's happening. So what's happening is that because it's a remote solution, we basically send you a text message with a link. You click on the link and that activates your camera. And so you can do inspections remotely. And obviously in this environment with the virus, it's something that's, you know, very welcome for cities and counties and companies as well.
Yeah, it might be the only chance to unclog some of those things they need to get done. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. So, but it's been really busy. Very, very hectic right now.
Michael, that's Paul Grenshi that you were talking about. Paul is one of the co-founders of a company in New York called Red Key Solutions.
Hey, Paul, great meeting you. So what does Red Key Solutions do?
We do managed information technology for businesses. Basically means, you know, if they have the people in-house but not the skills, or they don't have the people, they come to us.
And for what kind of services is it?
For all the business tech that they need everything from help desk to Office 365 to backups to security to wireless to hardware.
Cool.
And everything in between. If it's got an IP address, it's ours.
Very, very good. Very cool. And you're targeting small companies or you're targeting large companies?
Our average company size is between 30 and 50. Our biggest is 300 and our smallest is 5.
Very cool.
So far, we're surviving this transition.
Right. I actually was talking a few months ago to someone who had started I believe a somewhat similar business, although I don't know the details. And what he was saying is he was focused very much on the IT side though. And what he said is that his business took off about 10 years ago when there was a major fire here in the Bay Area. And so what had happened is that suddenly a whole bunch of businesses just needed help, right? And they started referring people to him, say, oh, this guy can help you. And it just, word of mouth, took off, and it really picked up very, very quickly.
Nice.
And that was the start of his growth in the business.
Yeah, sometimes you don't know when that's going to happen.
That's right.
Well, thanks for coming on again, Michael.
Sure. I may have to drop off around 4:35, 4:40, if that's okay.
That's okay with me. It's okay with you. Let me, while you're still here, I'll introduce you to, let's see who's on here. John Worthington, are you on? You're on. If you're on, say hello to my friend Michael.
Hi, Michael. How are you tonight?
Hey, John, I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How's everything out your way, Michael? Everybody all locked down, or is life more or less normal?
No, it's very, very much locked down.
Is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what we see is businesses. So two things: businesses, if small businesses like grocery stores and so forth, are still open, or a number of them are, and either you have, like restaurants, you have DoorDash or any of those services where you can have pickup and delivery, or the other thing is they're doing curbside pickup.
I see.
And so you order your groceries, and then they have their bags ready, and by the you basically send them a text message or something, and as soon as you show up, you show your order number, and you open your trunk, and they put the bags in, and you get out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it has to be that serious, unfortunately. You're probably history savvy enough to understand it, or to be aware that the Spanish, that's how they stopped the Spanish flu, is through the same process, right?
Yeah, that's what I read.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I sometimes get lost in the history stuff, so.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
I forget that not everybody does that.
Cool.
So Michael, what I don't think I quite understood what it was that your business does. They can do visual inspections through the internet, or through cameras. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so it's effectively a remote visual solution or remote video solution.
Uh-huh.
So what I can do is I can send you a text message, and
Right.
that text message will have a link. So you will click on that link,
Uh-huh.
and by clicking on that link, you'll say I authorize my camera to be opened.
Oh,
But
I
then
see.
it effectively opens up your, it activates your camera. And so
Uh-huh.
now I can tell you, John, why don't you actually go to that corner, or why don't you show me, the air conditioner or the furnace you've just installed,
I
right?
see.
And actually, go a little lower. I'd like to see the bottom, and I'd like to see the back. How have you connected the gas, line
yeah.
to the furnace? And then I can make pictures of that, right?
Right.
And so based on what I see, if I'm the inspector, based on what I see, I can actually, make the pictures, tell you if you're passing the inspection or not, or I can say, here is something that's not right. And I can annotate on the screen. I can put a little box around it or a drawing or write something and say, well, you see those two connections here? Well, you should change those. You need to
Wow.
use a different, wire, or you need to use a different connector, right? And I'll send you that picture then.
Okay.
And then we can set up a follow-up call, sometime next week, just to check if you were able to fix those. And if everything seems fine, I have pictures of everything, can put them in a report and issue you a permit.
I see.
Cool.
I can imagine other applications as well then, eh?
Yeah, we know some applications, right, Ken, where a cable company, they have the same problem, right? You're using internet from a cable company and you're like, oh, gee, my internet is not very stable right now. You call up and they're like, but what box are you using? You're like, hey, it's a black box that sits right under my desk.
Got a plug in it, and I
Yeah.
don't know.
Exactly, right? And then the cable company can say, well, if you have a cell phone, do you mind if I send you a text message and then you show me what it actually is? And so they can then show the box and they can show the reference number, and the technician remotely can troubleshoot.
Yeah, Michael.
Right, Ken? You're
Yeah,
familiar with
right.
that?
Because we've spent the greater part of 2 or 3 weeks doing those deals.
That's right.
If I'm right, too, the feature that, or one of the important features, is that it'll open up like a ticket. So instead of just like, hey, I'll talk to you on FaceTime, you actually can coordinate the process and have it tracked through the app.
Yeah, correct. So what you can do is you can assign a ticket, right? So I can say that this was this location on March 29th at 7:12 p.m., right?
Yeah.
And so all the pictures that I make, or if I record videos or whatever annotations that I make, can be effectively bookmarked or stored according to that. And then whoever uses it can take all that information, pictures, annotations, videos, whatever it is, and refer to it in their ticketing system.
Okay.
So it creates a reference.
Michael, I'm gonna leave your mic on, okay? Because I think it's great. You and I have been working together for 2 months, so I might as well. I can't remember how much of the story about how a lawyer has a float center I talked to you about. Did I talk to you much about that?
A little bit. Love to hear it. I thought it was fun.
Okay. Well, I think it's good because it has a lot to do with what we're doing here. In one respect, I suppose, looking from the outside in, it may look like two completely different, divergent businesses. Some people have said things like, this is your side hustle, right, Ken? Or your midlife crisis. I've had people ask me about that, especially my law partners. But there is a complete integration or between what we do or what I do. I say we because there are people on this call that run float centers, not just me. What we do in those float centers and what happens in business. In particular, when I first started to float, I noticed that I was I was more relaxed. That was one of the aspects of it, because when you float, it's like taking an elevator down, meditation on steroids, some people say. But in doing that, I brought that relaxation with me outside of the float business. And you could say that what goes on when you're in a float tank is that you like reorganize your brain or your thinking, almost like increasing your virtual capacity, upgrading your RAM. How about that, Michael? Okay. As it happened for me, not only did I have that experience, which people have, of relaxing and being able to think better, but I happened to come across a group of colleagues in the float industry, some of whom are on tonight, especially John Worthington, who you just spoke to, that spent years. John opened up one of the first float centers and spent years figuring out what the heck was this business about. What are the practical aspects of it? He's got a really diverse background. At some point in one of these podcasts, he'll tell everybody what that is, and you'll see all of the work he's done in navigating thought, and especially understanding what happens in a float tank, and more important, what the heck can you do with it? Because that was my first question. I was like, I knew I was relaxed, and I knew I was gaining insights into the ways that I thought about things, but as it turned out, I lacked a language. I seriously lacked a language, because before I started to float, the best languages I had were, like, I read Deepak Chopra and I listened to Wayne Dyer, and they told me to connect to the source, or that I should manifest my reality. And I tried to manifest my reality. Instead, all I kept manifesting was the same stuff that was going on. And I was like, damn, the hell, how come I can't manifest this shit? Well, it turns out that I lacked the language to understand what was going on in my own thoughts, Michael. And through the work I've done through floating, and especially through training with John, I built a language around that, a real practical language. It turns out, if you think about computer programming as an analogy, language dictates what you can do. If you have a language like COBOL, or one of the early computer languages, you have so much ability or some limited ability in what you can do with that computer. But languages in computers have gotten more sophisticated, or maybe a better way to say it is more abstract, to the point where we can do more and more with that language. Well, guess what? The same is true with the language we use in our own biocomputer. So what we do in a float center is we give people an upgrade, a CPU upgrade, along with a language to go along with it so that they can think better, okay? Why was that relevant to business, or why is it relevant? Well, it turns out that as I started to get into this, I started to see that what was going on for me in business, in terms of the places where I wasn't, it wasn't working as well as I could. Arguments with partners and arguments showing up all over the place, and the same patterns were because of how I thought about things. No big deal, right? Everybody's got something like that. The thing is, though, you can't see the thing you have. Let me hold this for a second. I'm going to bring up a, let's see if I got a quote here that I can show you guys. Let me see. Bear with me a second here. Let's see if I can share this with you here. I don't know if that's the one. How about this one? Okay. So these are quotes from a guy named John Lilly, who was the early pioneer in the float industry. This guy thought about shit. I mean, he thought about stuff in ways that were way ahead of its time. I think people now, in terms of understanding or starting to talk about thought in a technological language, are only beginning to pay attention to what Lilly was paying attention to, say, back in the 1950s and 60s. Lilly wrote, "In the province of the mind, what one believes to be true is true or becomes true, within certain limits to be found experientially and experimentally. These limits are further beliefs to be transcended. In the province of the mind, there are no limits." And another one, another Lilly quote is, "All human beings, all persons who reach adulthood in the world today are programmed biocomputers. No one of us can escape our own nature as programmable entities. Literally, each of us may be our programs, nothing more, nothing less." Okay. when I first read that, it was like, wait, stop, hold on a second. Are you telling me that what's going on for me in business has to do with programs that I wrote? And sure as anything, absolutely. That's what it came down to. Every place where there was call it an impediment or a sticking point or an argument or something that wasn't going right, I can trace it dollars to donuts back to a place in my thinking. Now, question, I'll ask it to you, Michael, since you're still on. What do you think the chances are that if that was the case for me, that was the case for every client that I've ever represented, every person I've ever met?
That seems like a logical step. So let me ask you a question, though.
Sure, please.
Just to make sure I interpret this correctly or I get this correctly. If I were to, can I interpret this as saying that we all look at things, what we see, hear, and interpret is based on a certain lens that we look through, and that lens is influenced or programmed, if you want, by our experiences, which includes the way we grew up, the environment, the principles, the values, and so forth, and all the experience we have had, a good experience somewhere, a bad experience in another domain, or whatever it might be, as well as, so influenced, one, by experience, and secondly, potentially could be determined partially genetically as well, that some people are wired a certain way because of their genes. Well, is that a good interpretation of what?
That's a pretty good one. Myself and most people, and it's just a facet of the human condition that what we think we see, we think represents what's actually going on. It's like those fights with my partners and my significant other, I was pretty sure I was interpreting them correctly, except all we ever really do at best is interpret things through our experiences, or you can call it our programs.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense?
Yeah. The neuroscience way that they sometimes say it now is that our perceptions are not only unreliable, they're inherently unreliable. And that for me was a kind of a holy crap kind of moment. Because if that were true, if it was inherently unreliable, I mean, not Ken Kaplan. I mean, maybe you, Michael, but not me.
No, you can't trust anything you see or hear anymore.
Well,
why am I speaking to you if you know?
Well, so here's the thing. You have 4 or 5 partners, right?
Yeah, in business.
In your business, and
not in life.
And so do I.
Right, at least, I don't know, you might be different, but I've had one for a long time. It's changing.
Yeah, I have too.
You have 2. That's even better.
The places of, let's call it, friction in those relationships, whether it was at home here or at work, had everything to do with perceptions, everything. And I mean, I've even when I started the float business, my law partners were asking me what I was doing, and I was interpreting it as how dare they even question that about me? Isn't it quite evident all the great things that I'm doing in this world? I mean, if you think about that, that's just the lens through which I looked at it. Not accurate in terms of what was going on, and not particularly efficient or productive in terms of reaching an agreement with them, but it's how I saw things. But I didn't see it that way until I started to get into the float business and learn to explore those thoughts of mine and how they were impacting my business.
And Ken, wouldn't you say that other people were kind of critical to help you see these things that you couldn't see? It's not just like a little analysis on your own part, resolved. this blindness or this myopathy that you were experiencing, right? In fact, you didn't believe people when they brought it up.
If by critical, Paul, you mean that I needed a 2x4 full frontal assault on several occasions to get me to see something that I refused to see, I'd answer that question yes.
Okay.
Yeah. How about for you, though? True, too?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time, like you, thinking I had started to figure out some of these things, and it turns out that I didn't. And I didn't know that until I was actually on a seminar down in Mexico with John Worthington, and I had a phone call with my wife that did not go the way that I thought it was gonna.
Imagine that.
And I found out that the last year and a half I'd pretty much been a dick, and hadn't really heard anything that she'd been saying. And
Build a community of people that are interested in learning some practical skills about how they can, let's just say, sharpen up their computer, their biocomputer, in a way that they can get along better.
Can I introduce something also?
Yes.
So a thought. So a lot of the things that the way I've been looking at some of those is they're bidirectional, right? So part of it is how you interpret them, but then the other part, I think, is that your reaction to them might vary according to the kind of input you get.
Well, you see, Michael, that's not the case, though, because if you and if I went out to California and you and I worked together side by side, same projects, same things all day long, same experiences, let's just say, I might come home at the end of the day saying, wow, this is really great. I'm really doing a great thing for humanity here and serving the community, especially in a time of need. And as a result of those same experiences, you might conclude, say, for example, motherfuckers, I can't believe these people that I have to work with. So consider then that the reaction is yours completely. You have to start there. I know, Michael, that would, for me, that was a heavy one. No, it can't be me. Cannot be me, must be her, or him, or them, but not me. From that starting point, boy, there's plenty that you can do, plenty. Because if you can start with the fact that if something's going on for you, you've created that thing, you've got maneuverability. But if you start from the place where, that reaction, it's a bidirectional thing, and by saying that, there's an aspect of taking out your reaction and putting it in the control of someone else. That to me was a really dangerous thing for me. Because for every time that I did that, I was blaming somebody else for what was going on for me. And it was a non-starter in terms of finding a resolution. Why would it? My partners were being difficult with me. They weren't understanding me. And they were being oppressive. And so, I had to work myself out of that, let's call it that trap of thought where I attributed what was going on with me to some external force. Okay?
Yeah, no, I can see that.
So, questions answered, Mike? I mean, does that resonate with you in terms of what's going on with the business these days, or what's going on with you in particular?
Yeah, you know, the thing is that I think it's a journey, right? And very few people go to the extreme. I've read quite a bit about, you know, some Buddhist monks, for example, and they've got to a place where indeed they can absorb a lot, right? And more than most of us who just don't spend as much time thinking about it and changing their, you know, each of our behavior, right? So I think it's a journey to get there. And I think some of us might get closer to it faster or in their lifetime than others. But what I was trying to say, Ken, is that if you're someone who is very organized and you like to be organized, it might be really important for you to start meetings on time and to end them on time, right? And
Okay.
if you consider that it's a journey, right, that we may not have reached that point, or not all of us have reached that point.
Yeah, but
I know
Michael,
that
you can't. Yeah, you have to hold on. Yeah, you see, there are. Here's a situation where there are things that need to be done. There are, you know, there's just things that need to be done in business, and there's been so many people that have come through our law firm that have just not wanted to get the things done that needed to be done. True with my float center as well. And so I do know that this kind of work, building a language, takes time. But I know too to be careful to listen to where something like it's a journey is a substitute for I don't feel like doing it now. Now, I'm not saying that one of those that absolutely applies to what you're saying here for you. But I know my ears are always tuned that when I hear people say, oh, it's a process and I'm not there yet, the translation to that often is, I just fucking don't want to get there. That's what it's come down to in business. John, you have something to say?
Yeah, I guess I'm supposed to turn on my
Yeah,
video there.
yeah, that'd be
I
good.
turned it on now. I'm actually
Come on.
acting like a responsible human being. Michael, a question here to consider is that this process thing works pretty good when you're 11 and 12 and you're learning how to play baseball. But by the time that you get to be a dad, that process idea takes on an entirely different meaning, because you're responsible for that little guy or that little girl from the moment that she's born or he's born. And that's not a process. That's moving from, golly wowzers, I've got no responsibilities to, ooh, damn, look at this right here, rockabye baby, in the treetops, oh my, oh my. And so what happens for us sometimes is that, I think at least, is that we kind of make an excuse for ourselves so that we don't have to deal with something. Now, classically, they say that's an evasion. And I'm not so sure that that's what it is. It's what it's called, but I'm not sure that's really what it is. I'd rather think perhaps that it's a frustration, really, of not understanding or not having a way of talking about what's really on your mind in that place. And so rather than trying to struggle through it and argue with people, trying to find a language that you can say so you can figure out how to say that thing, people just say, oh, never mind, I don't want to believe that shit. I don't want to talk about that stuff. It's a process. I'm in a process, you're in a process, everybody's in a process, now leave me the fuck alone. Hare Krishna. And the Grinch stole Christmas and there ain't no Easter bunny, so there. And it's like, to me, I think that we can just take a step back or two maybe and figure out where it is that we can find a resolution or an agreement rather than saying it's a process. Maybe not. maybe it's stuff, all of it's just stuff that we've all done already. We already do. We just don't have a way of talking about it. I mean, just stop and think about this. Paul, when was the first smartphone? What was the date for the first smartphone?
I mean, the first iPhone is the one that really caught my attention. That was, Google would be my friend there. I don't know, early 2000s, 2006, 2005.
Okay. So what is that? That's what, 15 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh.
Let me see if I can give you a way to think about this. Lilly started talking about the brain as a computer in 1960, 65, something like that, with the very first computers, because he was at Johns Hopkins and they had computers and he could use them. He was at Harvard. They had computers and he could use them. They were big things and you had to sign up for them like a telescope, but that they worked. Well, by the 70s, they weren't like that anymore. And by the 80s, they weren't like that. And by the 90s, they weren't like that. And by 2005, you could actually hold one of those puppies in your hand, okay? Now, when that happened, we all began to say, oh, I see, operating system. That's what that OS is? Oh, who knew? That's cool, operating system, yeah. But we didn't understand what a metaprogram was, a program that controlled other programs, because we didn't ever think about it that much. The only thing we said is, oh, that's an operating system. Yeah, I'll download it. And then I'm going to type on the screen. We didn't realize that what we were doing is being kind of, well, shall we say, conscious about it. And that consciousness was nothing more than looking at the screen. So when we turn around and look backwards, we don't have a way of seeing it, because I'm sorry, but Jesus and Moses and Ezekiel and even King Solomon and John the Baptist and St. Peter, none of them, not one of them had a computer to compare their brain functions with. And so they did the best they could for explaining it, I think. And I think that we need to be very, very, very considerate these days about how we describe our brain systems, just so that we can see it differently. But we don't want to get lost in scaries. We don't want to get lost in comparisons. We don't want to get lost in I'm right, you're right. That who cares? I don't care whether you're right or not. I care whether you're hungry. I care whether you're safe. But when it gets down to those kind of things, I don't care whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, or whether you're a Baptist or a Jew or a Pentecostal or a Hare Krishner. Harry's okay. I don't have any trouble with Harry. Every now and then I throw him a nickel and tell him to ring the bell for me. It's cool.
It will suck you into a 10-minute conversation pretty quick.
No, they don't, Paul. I know a word that stops them in their track.
What's that?
No, don't go. No.
You're going to have to say that a few times.
No. I have kids. Yeah, I know that word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm
all right. Let me let's see if I can expand this conversation, because I had another one of my old friends join. So let's see. John Sickle, you out there?
Yep, I'm here.
Hello there, John. How you doing?
Good. Very good.
What? Where are you these days? You're in Jersey?
Yep, just got away now.
You're all isolated up like everyone else?
No. I'm an essential worker.
What are you doing these days?
Working for my father again.
Okay. Doing what kind of stuff?
High pressure steam.
You guys keep it busy?
Boilers, pressing machines, stuff like that. Which has really translated a lot into sanitation for like pharmaceuticals and stuff for the food industry.
Hmm. You keeping safe?
Am I keeping safe?
Yeah.
I feel so.
Okay. That's good. You've got some of that, let's say process or history thing, because I first met you, I don't know, 5, 7 years ago.
Probably closer to a decade.
Yeah, I venture a guess that there's been maybe an evolution or an expanding of your own ability to use a language to understand how you think about things. Would that be true?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's definitely changed quite a bit. But then again, I think the entire world has. I've just been working at it a little bit differently than the general populace.
Okay, what kind of work?
Well, after the floating, I started working with people on something that's called concept therapy, which is it's generally the same as any other mode of discovering what's running you and straightening it out, and pretty much understanding that there's a power running it all, and that it's a lot easier to live life as one than as a separate entity, not involved as the one.
You guys say more about that.
Well, there is only one. There's the one in the many. God, the universe, nature, X power, whatever you want to call it, that everything is energy, right? And if everything is energy, then we are energy, the rocks are energy, and there's something that governs it all.
Yeah.
And that's what I refer to as the one.
Yeah, the language, as we're talking about, is helpful. It's I'd say it's critical in being able to maneuver and do the things. For me, coming into this work, it was the source or whatever the best language that I had heard. And you know, I know that there's more to me than just the programmatic experiences and memories inside of, inside my biocomputer. But I know too that the best I'm ever going to do is by paying attention to those things. So, the one is really about organizing for me my programs so that they are in line with what I want to do, as opposed to contradictory or disparate.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. But it seems to me that throughout my life, as I view it now and I look back upon it, I see all the things that led me to where I am. And I realized that the plan from the get-go was absolutely perfect, and that there's no way I could have possibly have imagined to put myself through those circumstances would bring about the understandings that I've come to. So pretty much what I've learned is get the hell out of the way. You have an intuition, something that's guiding you. And it has yours and everybody else in its best interest. And life is so much easier when you go with the flow of life, other than, rather than going up against it and forcing your will upon it. I guess that's the best way I can put it, because basically I fought my whole life against what everybody wanted, and it brought me nothing but suffering. And through my suffering, I sought out not suffering through many different modalities. I went, I was playing around with the shamanism, and just from thing to thing to thing, each picking up a little piece along the way. And finally, all of the work has, all of the work is now where I can view it and understand it and stop being a child, so to speak.
Yeah, if I remember, one of the places where you got rocked, or
Oh yeah, my friend John.
hold on, right? I don't know when you came on, but Paul Grenchi was making a point maybe before you came on about whether I had to be whooped upside the head a couple of times by a 2x4 to pay attention to something.
No, I missed that.
I'm fairly sure, having met you, that you were about as hard-headed as
Oh yeah, as they come.
I am.
Yeah.
What do you say, John? Is our friend John W. Is friend John S. here been hard-headed?
How you doing, guy? Long time no see.
Yeah, good. Very good.
Yeah. Where'd you go?
Yeah. Where did I go?
Yeah.
Um,
Last time I saw you, you were painting my fence.
yes, I was. And I would like to thank you because it took me damn near a decade to come to understand what you were trying to explain to me. Because God, you know, like I just did not want to accept anything from anybody.
Yeah, yeah. But
And it took me, you know, it took me a really long time to grow up.
I guess that's what it is, John. I have a lot of trouble with saying something like that because the thing is that you did the best that you could with what you had, I think, and I think that's a fair way of
Yeah.
saying it. So I can't fault you. I can't say that you're a bad guy or you did anything wrong. I don't think that's true.
No.
I think that I think you're, like you said, you're hard-headed, but it's, you know, what the hell? I'm hard-headed. If you're not hard-headed, you're not worth a damn. But John, the philosophy that you're using is, in the long run, it's too clumsy to be in the lower regions of thought, I think. Okay, let me see if I can explain this to you. One of the problems with any religion is that one of the things that you're trying to do is you're trying to find out who it is that you're trying to find out who it is. Sandy, you're on Facebook Live, you know that.
No, I didn't know that.
Well, now you know. Okay. One of the problems with thinking with religion is that the concepts are just too broad and too deep for anybody to use. I mean, you have to study for 4 or 5 years to be able to get enough of biblical law or Bible doctrine or something of that nature in order to understand anything about any given take on what religion should or should not be. And it's based on silly things that this word that says that and that word that says the other. And so the thing is that you need to, I think we need to be able to reduce belief structures down to the bare basics, just so that they function for us, because that way it gives us more room to think. I suspect maybe that's it, or maybe it just makes thinking itself more streamlined. What do you think?
Well, what I'm doing is not religion in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, but it is.
Though. Okay.
Okay, yeah, it is. In other words, what you're doing is that you're structuring a belief structure, a belief system. You're saying, I believe it's this way and this way and this way and this way. But it's convoluted. It's got lots of loops and twirls and so forth in it. Nothing wrong with it. It's just a long, stretched out, slinky type of belief structure. Okay, it's fine. It works. I'm not telling you that you're wrong about it. I'm just telling you that you can reduce that if you can figure out how to get that reduced. I mean, we can help you. Ken can help you with reducing it, I think. But if you can reduce that down, what happens is that you don't have to take so long to decide these things or to make those relationships and so forth. You're still a little slow with it, right? I mean, you're better than you were. I can hear that in your voice, but you're still not really quick with it because you just need more practice. But the other thing that could help more than the practice is becoming more efficient in how you form thoughts. Fair enough?
Yeah, I could definitely see that. You know,
John,
because
I've never had a trouble with your ability to think. My problem with you have been how you think. The things that you use to perceive with, and it's like, it's okay that it's legal. There's nothing wrong with it, but it has caused you just enormous amounts of pain and suffering in your life that were just unnecessary because those things that you perceived didn't really exist the way that you thought they did, and
absolutely,
okay, you grew out
absolutely.
of it. And it was a
Absolutely.
good lesson for you. You're going to teach your kids better because of it. I have no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, like I said, I understand that you view it as a religion,
I don't.
I
I don't view it as religion. I'm saying that a religion is a structured belief, and that's what you're building. Now, if you want to call that religion, you can. You can call it George if you want to, although he'll probably resent it.
Well, basically, it was a building up of programs.
Yeah, but let's not call them just programs. Let's also call them meta programs and self meta programs, and maybe even supra self meta programs. Although that one, I don't think that one's come into play yet. Maybe
Okay.
I didn't see it in your explanations, but okay.
I have a question here, John.
Go ahead.
John, hold on. I think what you're pointing out is that is a distinction between what we use to think. You use the term program, and then a meta program, which is a program that controls sets of other programs,
Yeah.
and the belief structure.
Right.
Okay? Because religion would fall into a belief structure.
That's true, and they do, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
People have those things. It's not, there's no value.
I'm not sure that's true for everybody, but I've heard it is, and I'm willing to take your word on it because everybody I've ever known had one.
Yeah.
And mostly they were really proud of it too.
Yeah. Same for me. But it's handy, whatever that belief structure is that you build, to build it on a framework or foundation. Well, for me, I can say it is maybe efficient or streamlined, because it wasn't always the case for me that it was.
Ken, for me, I would explain it as effective for change. It allows me to find places to make adjustments rapidly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I like it.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay.
Well, I know that this sounds like I'm defending because there's no other way to look at it. But
I'd be absolutely hurt if you didn't.
Well, from what I've been coming to understand, I mean, basically the work that I did built me up this great belief system or programming, and which, I had to go along and change little things that I saw that weren't working in my life to free up enough of my thinking that I could process things to
That's true. Yeah.
come to my understanding of what was actually running the show from the start. And whereas in the past, something would have happened to me, which would have caused me upset, and it would have just been something to add to the fire. Whereas now I feel like I have this friend almost in God, universe, or whatever you want to call it, or intuition, that when something comes up.
Okay, John, but I want you to remember something about this friend, right? This friend is kind of like Clint Eastwood.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Do
think,
you remember? Do you remember what is it, Red Boots or something like that, where Clint Eastwood goes over to the Indian chiefs and said, and then early in the morning says, "Hey boys, y'all over here to having breakfast?" And they all say, "Yeah, we having something. You want to get down and eat?" He says, "No, no, I just come over to shoot y'all." And they say, "Well, now we don't much cotton to that, Clint." And he said, "Well, that's what I come for." And then they all look at each other real hard, and the music comes up and it plays real dramatic shit and so forth. And they look at each other's like, "No, that's another Clint. That's earlier, I think. That's another movie, I guess." But anyway, they look in each other's eyes, and then Clint says, "You know, I don't really give a damn. I just soon shoot you here as to shoot you over there at the house. So if you want to shoot me, just come on. I'll take you out right here, motherfucker." Now, that's not exactly how it came out in the final cut, but it's pretty close, okay? And it's like, I think that you kind of got to be Clint Eastwood about some of this stuff here, don't you? Don't you? You got to stand there just on account of you'd stand there, because if you don't, you're going to die somewhere. You might as well die for something you believe in, or something that you think you believe in.
I'm not really catching where you're going with this, but
Well,
that's
how important?
go ahead.
How important is this thing that you're making, John?
Well, it's not much longer. The point is that
No. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath.
Okay.
How important are you making this idea that you're explaining here tonight? I'm not arguing with your idea. I'm just I like your idea.
How important is it?
Yeah,
It's important as to that it has been aiding me in straightening out my programming.
Okay, cool. That's cool. Okay, now, here's the thing though. I don't think that you're ready to bet that hard on it, right?
Oh yeah. I would definitely bet on it.
John, I like it, but don't do that, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Fill it in a little bit more. The abstractions aren't complete yet. That's all I'm trying to tell you. You spend some time, sleep on it some more, and find a way to finish that abstraction so it works better for you, please.
yeah, that's the point. That is, I forget one quote I was going to put up tonight about certainty or something being a wretched state, because it is. Because just when I think I'm certain about something is when I cut off the ability to consider more efficient ways of going about things. That's what John's talking about.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. And I know that you've learned things by hanging out with me and us in terms of that, let's call them efficiency things of going about things. I'm just suggesting to you, as John is, that there may be, I think there is, more streamlined ways of going about what you want to go about. Okay?
Yes, I guess it took me a little bit to figure it out, but we're talking about my ability to make communication, not my belief structure.
Well, they're the same thing, though, really. They actually are the same thing.
I thought of that.
Yeah, because well, I mean, think about it for a second. I mean, you'll see, it's easy for you to see it. I'm sure you're quick, John. Look, here, think about what we're doing here, really. Okay, we're saying, okay, I'm going to communicate with another person. Well, how can I communicate with that person if I don't know what I believe and what they believe? Because if I don't, we're ships passing, not in the night, like on the wrong side of the equator, North Pole, South Pole type of thing. We don't get close. Communication not gonna happen there. Go ahead, Paul.
I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
No, wasn't it you?
It was me that just gave a yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I really enjoy talking with you guys.
And I do you. For sure.
Because that is something that I have recognized as as something that has not been working so well for me, is my ability to communicate what I think from one person to another.
Yeah, but that, John, there are maps for that, and it's like, I talked to Ken about it. I think he's trying to put together a workshop on this stuff.
Yeah.
You should talk with him about whether or not you can attend.
Yeah.
Because you can figure this stuff out, John. You're a smart fella. I mean, if you can do fucking plumbing, you can do anything. You can put anything together.
Yeah. We'll chat more about that, John.
All right.
Yeah, I'm working on putting something together that I guess you could use what John said about maps, or maps through thoughts, to navigate through it in the form of like a multi-day workshop that goes on, covering the office of shaman from beginning to end. Okay.
Right. That sounds good.
Okay. Well, it's after 8. I know we said tonight that we would introduce some things about the new CARES Act. I've been preparing a summary. So how about what we'll do is we'll post that, or a link to that, and you'll see it'll have some answers to what are now frequently asked questions about, well, what benefits will you have, or will your business have from this new legislation that was passed on Friday? So look for that. We'll post a link.
Are there benefits, Ken, for people?
Well, I think there are some real benefits there, Mr. John.
Okay, good. People
So
are going to
we're-
get some real help then.
Yeah, I think there's some good things here. There's some incentives and payments for people. There are some things for businesses. There are things for students. There are things for retirees. And what I want to do is get people ahead of it, so they know how to navigate through those things and take advantage of what's ever out there. Okay, so we'll post some things.
Cool.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd tell you what tomorrow's session is about at 7 p.m. if I remembered that, but I don't.
Just know there will be another session.
We will be meeting again tomorrow night at 7 p.m. So thanks those for attending. Thanks all the attendees. Thanks John Sickle and
Thank you.
Michael Bays for coming on, and our facilitator types for coming on as well and working in the background. So how about we see you all mañana?
I won't be able to.
Okay, John, that's all right.
Yeah, I won't be able to make it tomorrow night. I have a class, but I'll see you Tuesday.
Okay, that sounds good.
All
Bye,
right.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take care. Well.
Take care.